Financial accountability, transparency and performance, those are all the indicators that have not improved in most municipalities over the last 5 years. It was revealed during Auditor-General Tsakani Maluleke's latest report on the financial health of councils. Maluleke says only 8 more municipalities have achieved clean audits compared to 5 years ago.
What we see looking at this year's audit outcomes is that there is no improvement in the status of transparency, accountability, performance or integrity of local government. Throughout the tenure of the 4th administration of local government, which started following the 2016 elections and left the system following the 2021 elections, we've not seen an improvement. If you compare from 5 years ago, there were 33 clean audits. This time around, there are 41 clean audits. So not much movement in the right direction. It's also important to note that amongst those 42 are predominantly the district municipalities. Only 1 metro, very few local municipalities, very few municipal entities, and also very few intermediate cities. Which then says that those entities, those municipalities that have got the greatest budget, that have got the greatest impact in terms of service delivery, they're not adequately represented in that 41.
Maluleke further revealed that the majority of councils that did obtain clean audits were smaller district municipalities.
The culture of not submitting financials, or even of submitting financials late, which would be a flouting of the law. That culture is starting to set in again. 5 years ago, 90% of municipalities would submit their financials on time for audit. Now we're sitting at 82% that do so on time. There are a number of provinces where this is a struggle, specifically the Free State, the Northwest, and the Northern Cape. They need particular attention to ensure that we push back on this new dynamic that's entering the system again.
Well, for more on that report, we're joined by Chartered Institute of Government Finance, Audit and Risk President Sidwell Mofokeng, also the Stellenbosch University Public Governance Analyst, Professor Mark Swilling. Good evening to both of you. Thanks for your time tonight. Sidwell, I'll kick it off with you. You know, the fact that the Auditor-General is making a comparison to where things were 5 years ago, very little improvement. It's despite what are detailed recommendations for each municipality on areas that they need to improve. It suggests to me that the state of dysfunctionality is created to remain exactly that way.
Good evening, and to your viewers also. It is indeed a sad day today in South Africa. When you look that over the 20 years of local government existence post democratic dispensation, we have seen increased degradation and regression, not only in the audit outcome, but in service delivery. So service audit outcome must also be able to improve. If we have clean audit outcomes, it must also stick to clean audit governance and clean governance. And sadly, over the last 2 financial years, we've seen a remarkable increase in non-compliance and degradation of the service delivery promise.
Professor Swilling, we look at provinces like the Free State and the Northwest where no single municipality was able to get a clean audit. I mean, the Northwest practically has all its departments and municipalities under administration. One wonders why it is. There doesn't seem to be any clear will to really turn the situation around in some of these areas.
Yes, well, I mean, it's a complex mix of factors which result in this very sad state of affairs, which affects ordinary people on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, there's capacity problems, there's corruption problems, there is political interference, but there is also a kind of weird culture of carelessness and an obsession with pomp and ceremony, with status rather than real service to the people. And that all gets compounded by the fact that we have unfunded mandates. Local government is under greater and greater pressure to do more and more with less and less funding. So it's almost like a perfect storm. It's one of our greatest challenges as a nation.
The issue that you're raising about unfunded mandates and many councils, of course, passing unfunded budgets has again been an ongoing one, but it persists. So we don't see that effort from municipalities, despite the pressure that they're facing, to do what they can with the little that they have, or at least make it go as far as possible.
Yeah, and absolutely. And this is, I mean, it would be much better if you have local authorities with limited funds who do the best that they can to use those funds to maximum effect with a clear strategy and disciplined management of those resources and a responsive political leadership. But that's not what happens. Instead, we have this a kind of sense of arrogance amongst the political leadership and amongst the public servants, a sense of carelessness covered up by this obsession with status and their office. And really, at the end of the day, it's the political parties that are going to have to intervene to make sure that the kind of leadership that we have at local government changes fundamentally. We have to shift into a quality leadership which has the skills that is required.
Sidwell, I want to go back to this point of capacity that has been raised, because we know that municipalities will have technocrats that they have hired that form part of the administrative sectors of their councils. But at the same time, you will still have this heavy reliance on external auditors and consultants to help them prepare some of their financial statements. And that really ends up eating and taking a chunk of the budget that should be going into services. Where is the challenge there?
Well, municipalities cannot continue to become architects of their own misfortune. I don't buy the story of capacity because as we stand, 99% of our municipalities have got competent CFOs, suitably qualified, perhaps not adequately experienced because they may not come from the local government background. However, for as long as the municipality exists, it has to prepare a budget, it has to report on that budget, it has to spend on that budget, monitor that budget to ensure that it achieves the strategic objective of the municipality, and report on it accurately and completely in a qualitative manner that inspires confidence, not what we see in the audit outcomes. And clearly, as Professor is indicating, it's a lack of laxity. People have just derelicated their duty. For as long as the municipality exists, it will have to prepare a budget and it has to report through a credible set of financial statements that are fully compliant. And therefore, I don't buy that the issue of capacity, it is something that is just left to laissez-faire and absolutely laziness. But above all, Katie, I think it is a failure of oversight. The law really requires executive mayors, or mayors as the case may be, to discharge certain responsibility of oversight over the administration. And that certainly it's still failing to this day.
You know, Sidwell, I want to talk about the issue of ethics here, because part of what has been listed as challenges in this conversation ultimately they're based on decisions that individuals make when they're at work every single day.
Yeah, look, the issue of ethical conduct, maybe one must just oppose my response to the pattern where you see increase in irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure increasing, failure to report, or where municipalities fail even to submit financial statements timely, or where they submitted those financial statements, they are not accurate. You see this through the year leading to elections. You can see a lot of these irregular expenditures happening or increasing. And then it talks to the ethical behavior and ethical conduct of the persons appointed to administer or manage our funds. And therein, we need to really focus more on ethical leadership, but it must start with those that are charged with governance, who are elected, who are the carriers or the bearers of the mandate, and then it will filter down to the administration. The fish, as the Chinese say, rots from the head, and that's where the tone must be set correct. The tone must be set correct at the top.
Professor Swilling, let me wrap up with you. The fact that we don't have consequence management and that all that happens sometimes in these municipalities is just a game of chess, moving around some officials from this department to another, from one office to another, but we don't actually see people being held accountable for the ways in which monies are badly spent.
Yeah, I think that's true, but we also must not forget that there is a significant number of local authorities that did get unqualified and clean audits, that we can actually show that there are role models. We can show that the system can work. And so what we need to do is, yes, consequence management may have a role. I'm a bit skeptical whether that kind of approach really delivers. What we actually need to do is inspire a new generation of political leadership and management to move into local government, to see this as a mission, to see this as a cause to serve the nation. And until we get that kind of shift in ethos, in spirit, in enthusiasm, I think we might be flogging a dead horse with many local authorities. But there is some good news, which we mustn't forget about.
Yeah. Yeah, the situation for those municipalities that are, of course, on the worst end of things is really, really dire. Let me thank you both for coming on to the show. Chartered Institute of Governance, Finance, Audit and Risk President Sidwell Mofokeng. You also had there Professor Mark Swilling, who is with the University of Stellenbosch.